All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition with Lunch with Lakers. My name is Ryan Palm, and I am from the alumni office here at the university. I want to welcome you for joining us today. I will get to introduce our guest, Dr. Brett Johnson, in just a second, but first, a couple housekeeping things for those who may be new to joining our show. Lunch with Lakers is a weekly series that we created after COVID-19 disrupted our normal operations here at the university. We felt it was a way to introduce our alumni, students, parents, friends to a little bit of Mercyhurst each week. We've had guests to include faculty, staff, administration, students, and it's really been a really fun, exciting journey to get to know everybody a little bit better and share some of how the university has reacted to the challenges of COVID-19 and how we plan on moving forward as we head into a fall semester here just in a few weeks. I'm joined by our alumni director, Lindsay Frank, who is managing the chat function of our Zoom call today. So if you're unfamiliar, navigate your cursor around until you find the chat function. There in the chat, Lindsay will be posting some information about how you can find past recordings of Lunch with Lakers. She'll provide an email address, alumni@mercyhurst.edu, where you can contact us for suggestions for future guests or topics. And the chat is also the place where you can go ahead and drop a question for our guest. Send it right there in the chat. We'll do our best to get to it during the show today. If we don't get to it, Brett has generously agreed to answer those questions by email. So feel free to send in that question at any time. Don't need to wait till the end to do that. We hope that everyone is keeping safe and in as much as possible during these challenging times. And we really look forward to continuing our opportunity to share information with our alumni, friends, parents as we go forward. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of today's show. But without any further delay, I want to go ahead and introduce Dr. Brett Johnson. Brett is a longtime member of the Mercyhurst family who has an interesting path of time here at Mercyhurst. He's done a lot of different things and worn many hats and is very well known around campus for doing many wonderful things. Brett, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. And kind of our first question each week is tell us a little bit about how you came to Mercyhurst and maybe even briefly for you, how you've taken off one hat and put on the other in such a short amount of time.
Sure. Thanks for inviting me to do this, Ryan. I've really been looking forward to it. When I started my job search in fall 2011 as an ABD doctoral candidate, I knew I wanted to teach at a liberal arts university. I attended Susquehanna University in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania for my BA in theater, and I attended the University of Missouri in Columbia for my MA and PhD. So I had been at a small liberal arts university and a large Research One institution. And I liked the small class sizes of Susquehanna. I liked that I knew my faculty and they knew me. And I liked that the emphasis was on teaching, which is not to discount scholarship. I still do scholarship. Scholarship is critical, but I saw that some of the challenges of the publish or perish mentality at Mizzou. And also, for example, here at Mercyhurst, I teach a 35 student intro to theater class. At Mizzou, as a grad student, I taught a 225 student intro to theater class, and I didn't really get to know those students. So I knew that. And then I started looking for positions, and I saw the one advertised at Mercyhurst. I almost didn't apply because it was advertised within an English department. And I had been teaching several English classes as an adjunct at Central Methodist University, but all three of my degrees were in theater. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. I want to teach theater, I want to direct, I want to continue to act in some capacity. But I was like, why not? Why not? And it said that they were looking for someone to run a theater program. I would call myself a generalist, and I knew that I didn't want to do one thing. If I were at a bigger school, I might be the acting person or the theater history person. But here at Mercyhurst, I get to do all of that. And I had a really great experience, both with my Skype interview and my on-campus interview. I came in the dead of winter in January 2012, and that didn't scare me away, and had such great interactions with the faculty, staff, and administrators. And it felt like home, and I saw a lot of possibility here in terms of building a theater program and doing all of what I wanted to do. So 8 years later, I'm still here. We'll talk more about the theater program later, probably. But several years ago, in addition to, so I teach courses in theater, I run the theater program. And several years ago, when my predecessor for the Mercyhurst Institute for Arts and Culture left, President Victor asked if I would be interested in serving as interim director of the Institute. And I said, sure. And I've been doing that ever since. So still running the theater program. And now I'm also the artistic director of the Mercyhurst Institute for Arts and Culture.
That's great. A man of many hats. And we'll talk about several of those roles today as we go forward. Why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about the Institute for Arts and Culture? I can only guess that's probably where you spend the majority of your day, and kind of give the background of, what you know about how that institute came to be, and then some of the highlights that you've experienced during your time at the helm.
Sure. The Institute was founded in 2011, I believe, so before I came to Mercyhurst. Our mission is to strengthen the vibrancy of the Erie region by presenting world-class performing arts experiences that lift the spirit, galvanize the intellect, stimulate the imagination, and encourage the free exchange of ideas. The cornerstone of the Institute is our MIAC Live series. So we present 8 to 10 events per season. That first season, when I was the interim director, my predecessor had signed most of the contracts, had lined up most of the performances. So it was just a matter of facilitating that programming and filling in some of the gaps. So it really wasn't until the 2017-18 season that I got to program it from scratch. And I had some experience as a producer, some experience organizing these types of events. When I was at Mizzou, I helped to organize a 3-day centennial celebration for Tennessee Williams. Williams attended the University of Missouri for 3 years. He's one of my research interests, one of my favorite playwrights. I've directed quite a few of his plays, and I wanted to do something to celebrate his 100th birthday. So we organized a 3-day conference. We had panels, scholarly presentations, readings, performances. We commissioned new work by the Missouri Contemporary Ballet, and we brought Elizabeth Ashley and Edward Albee in as our keynote speakers. So I had some idea of, creating a budget and arranging the travel and hospitality and just all of the nuts and bolts of that type of programming. But when I came on as interim director, there was a lot of learning on the job, and especially figuring out how this works at Mercyhurst. And I had a fantastic group of people around me, not just my advisory board, who have been instrumental in the success of the Institute, but our staff, the support with the internal community just really helped me to wrap my head around what we were doing, what was working, what wasn't. And we've done a lot of restructuring, a lot from our front of house operations to our back of house operations, box office, the number of performances we're doing. So we looked at pretty much everything closely and said, how can we do this better? So my predecessor had been programming 14 to 16, sometimes 18 performances a season. We dropped that down to 8. And I think the one year we had 9. But what that allowed us to do is bring in bigger names and utilize our resources, I think, in a smarter way. And we have brought, I think, some pretty incredible people to Mercyhurst. People like Kristen Chenoweth, Anna DeVere Smith, Bernadette Peters, Lily Tomlin, David Sedaris, Patti LuPone, Shirley MacLaine, Postmodern Jukebox, Chita Rivera, La Ballet Trocadero de Monte Carlo, Yamato. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And we're able to bring those people in through the generosity of our sponsors, our 501 members, I'll talk about that a little more later, and the support of the Mercyhurst administration. I feel fortunate to work at a school that values the arts, that has a legacy of supporting the performing arts. I'm also really proud of the fact that we've been able to keep ticket prices down in an attempt to make our programming available and accessible to the broadest possible audience. We've been doing small increases each year, and will likely continue to do that as their fees increase, as hotel rates increase, as travel increases. But we're going to do everything that we can to make the programming affordable. And also, shortly after I assumed the directorship, we introduced an initiative where Mercyhurst students can get free tickets to all of our programming. They don't have to be required to come for class. If they want to see Patti LuPone, or they want to see Postmodern Jukebox, or they want to see We Banjo 3 or the American Spiritual Ensemble, all they have to do is go to the box office and request a ticket. And in many instances, they'll have an opportunity to do a Q&A or a masterclass or a workshop with these incredible artists. And it's been an incredibly busy, productive 3 years. And unfortunately, we are on hold right now because of the pandemic, like so many other performing arts organizations. So it's a matter of figuring out, how can we weather this storm so that we can come out on the other side of this? Because when we do, people are going to want to gather in groups when it's safe to do so. And we're not going to, offer these types of events until it's safe to do so. But I really think we have a communal impulse. There's something in our DNA that makes us want to get together and have these experiences. And I miss it. I miss it terribly. And I look forward to that first show when we're able to get back together.
Sure. And I think you're absolutely right on the community part. And I think of all the shows that I've been to, I think one of the greatest challenges is trying to get people to actually sit down and stop talking in the lobby and just go and take your seats, right? It's always a great challenge to get people to stop socializing. And that's a good problem to have, right? So can you tell us a little bit about the theater program? I know it's something near and dear to your heart personally. I think I recognize a few names that are with us watching today that are alums of that program. So, give us kind of a snippet of what you've done with that program over the past few years.
Sure. Shortly after arriving at Mercyhurst, I introduced the curriculum for a theater minor. And we have students from virtually every major on campus. We have students from accounting, music therapy, intelligence studies, forensic anthropology, psychology, English, world languages, and on and on and on, who have decided to adopt a theater minor. Why? Some of them do decide to pursue theater beyond the gates of Mercyhurst. We have students who have attended grad school for theater, who are thinking about attending grad school for theater, who are auditioning professionally, or who are utilizing those skills in helming their middle school, high school musicals or plays where they teach. Even for the students who don't plan to pursue a career in theater, they recognize the many ways in which theater can enrich their liberal arts education. The skills that we teach, oral and written communication, critical and creative thinking, the ability to work as a member of a team, adaptability, time management, I could go on and on. These are the skills that will prepare students for successful lives, regardless of their chosen vocations. Importantly, theater also teaches empathy. And I think that is critical, given how divided we are right now as a country and as a world. So we have the minor, which is a pretty typical 18-credit minor, courses in acting, theater history, dramatic literature. We try to offer a study abroad experience every few years. We've gone to Italy and Greece. We've gone to London and Paris. We've gone to Ireland. Those have been invaluable experiences. We also have a full production season. We do 3 full productions a year, classic and contemporary plays and musicals. We've done everything from The Diary of Anne Frank to She Kills Monsters, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, Babes in Arms. In fact, Babes in Arms, which we produced back in February, was our 26th production since I've been here. And several world premieres. I've worked with my friend Mary Burrell, who adapted Anne of Green Gables and A Christmas Carol for us. We're also collaborating on something that we'll present virtually this coming fall, which we're not ready to announce yet. But the opportunity to do a world premiere and participate in that new play development process and be able to say to someone, I'm the first one who performed this version of this story is pretty incredible. We also provide opportunities for our students. Yeah, they're on stage, but they can also stage manage. They can work backstage. They can take on a role on the design team. We've had student directors. And because theater is a collaborative art and I'm a one-person program, we have quite a few guest artists, scenic designers, lighting designers, and these are really incredible people. I have worked with Madeline Steineck, who is a professional lighting designer based in Pittsburgh. Since fall of 2013, she has lit every show that I've done, and she's absolutely incredible, and we're so fortunate to work with her. Tucker Topol, also from Pittsburgh, has been doing scenic design for us lately. I've collaborated with my friend Aaron, who has done some of our scenic design and also designed puppets for our production of She Kills Monsters last fall. These are incredible artists and great opportunities for our students to collaborate with them. And kind of the last component of the theater program is we have, like so many other organizations on campus, a theater club. And this is an opportunity for students to socialize, and it helps to build a sense of community among Mercyhurst students who are interested in theater. I'm incredibly proud of what we've done over the past 8 years. I'm proud of the rigor of our coursework. I'm proud of the quality of our productions. And it's so fulfilling to work with these students who are inquisitive, who are curious, who are hardworking, who are incredibly talented. They make it all worth it. They make the 70, 80-hour weeks worth it when you're up till 1 a.m. painting the set, or you're backstage mending a costume during intermission. I love working with them.
That's wonderful. That was a great description and truly tells a wonderful story. So, Brett, I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about our audiences that typically attend the MIAC performances. I think there may be a sense of a stereotype that may not be true about who attends these performances. And I think one of the beauties of them is the diversity that you see in each of these performance audiences. And I mean diversity in almost every element that you could use to use that word in. So can you just share a little bit about what those audiences tend to look like?
Yeah, we have a pretty wide demographic, and that's important to me. And I still hear sometimes people will say, well, you are a predominantly, or you attract a predominantly older audience, that you have mostly elderly patrons, and that's simply not true. We have young students at some of the performances. We have high school and college age students. We have young professionals. We have adults. I mean, for instance, if you were to look around at the Kristen Chenoweth performance, you would see all of the above. And we want to continue to attract a wide audience, particularly those younger, like the middle school and high school students up through college age. I would hope that we are maybe introducing them to an artist or a genre or a style, or just giving them an experience that will enrich their lives and encourage them to support the arts.
That's really well said. So one of the common themes around our conversations we've been having since March is really how COVID-19 has impacted day-to-day lives. And I'm not sure there's anybody around our country and our world who hasn't been impacted in some way. So can you describe a little bit about kind of, what's happened with MIAC since, early March and share, as much as you're able about what it looks like for the fall as well?
Absolutely. In mid-March, we made the decision to postpone or cancel our remaining spring 2020 performances. We rescheduled a Brian Stokes Mitchell's concert, and unfortunately, we had to cancel Glenn Close's engagement. That's what happens when you're bringing in people who are still so incredibly busy and are filming television shows and doing concerts and working in the theater. And I mean, these people's schedules are full. So she won't be here next season, which is not to say that she won't be here at some point. So that was our first step, to postpone or cancel what remained of our 2019-20 season. Shortly thereafter, it became clear that we likely wouldn't be able to move forward with our 2020-2021 season as planned. I reached out to the agents to reschedule the fall engagements, and we're fortunate that we've now developed relationships with these agencies and with these individuals and with these artists. And they know that we've gained a reputation, and we have a really positive reputation. And so they're more willing to work with us. And they were incredibly understanding and supportive and saying, yes, let's reschedule for the spring or the following fall. We can wait and see. We can do it now. So we had those conversations. Our plan as of now is to do some online programming in the fall. I'm working with some speakers and some artists who would do mini concerts or interviews, Q&As. We're looking at different formats in the fall, and we would offer that programming free of charge, not just to our campus community, but to the entire Erie region. And then our hope is to return to live programming in spring 2021. Of course, that is contingent upon recommendations from state and local health officials, as well as university administrators. Our priority is keeping our patrons and the members of our campus community safe. So we are not going to hold an event until it is safe to do so, or until we feel like we have mitigation efforts in place that are going to keep our artists, our backstage crew, our box office staff, our front of house workers, and our patrons safe. So we're proceeding, we're cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to do that live programming in the spring. But if not, we will regroup and we will figure it out. I think we want to be pragmatic, but at this point, it is absolutely necessary that we infuse everything that we're doing with optimism, that this pandemic will have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I want to do everything that I can to make sure that MIAC is there at the end when all of this is over. I think the performing arts will survive. Theater in particular has been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It will survive in some form. You've seen artists and companies pivoting to online programming and virtual events, kind of like this. That's what we'll be doing with the theater program and with MIAC in the fall. I think it's an opportunity for innovation. It's an opportunity to ask ourselves important questions about accessibility and hopefully make some changes moving forward so that when we do start offering those live events again, it's not just back to the way we used to do it, that we're coming back better. And unfortunately, not every, and we've already seen this in the professional arena, not every organization will survive. Some have already shuttered. And I want to make sure, again, that we are positioned to weather this storm. And one thing that I would say is whether you choose to support MIAC or another nonprofit arts organization, support the arts. There are individuals who are going to be out of work through at least January 2021. That might mean making a donation to your favorite performing arts organization. It might mean gifting the value of your ticket back to that organization. You know, that $30 to $50 might be great for you to have, but if you can afford to gift that back to the organization, you know, multiply that $30 to $50 ticket by 500 or by 1,000 or by 1,500. And that's quite a hit for these organizations who are already in pretty dire financial straits. And I would also say when we do the online programming, tune in if you're able. And when we're up and running, attend an event. These are all different ways to support these organizations. The arts are vital. Where have people been turning? At least speaking personally, during the pandemic, I've been watching Netflix and streaming theatrical productions and movies and reading books and doing virtual tours of museums and listening to music. Been turning to the arts for hope and for solace and to feel less alone during this time when we're all isolated. So I feel confident about where we are right now with MIAC. And I think we are making some decisions that will help us move forward. But whether it's MIAC or another organization, support the arts.
That's really well said. Kind of relatedly, I think much of the world turned their eyes to the performing arts on July 3rd when Hamilton was released. I think that was obviously a major event, and certainly millions of eyeballs tuned into that. Do you have any reflections upon that concept of bringing, that, act to life via something like Disney Plus? And do you think that'll have an impact on the future way that, we as a country consume a product like Hamilton, where, for those who cannot get to, that theater to see that performance, whether that's distance or funding or whatever, will that have a long-term impact, do you think?
I hope so. I feel like they do this better in London. You see more West End productions that have been filmed and are streaming. I know there's a lot of red tape with the unions, and it's a complicated thing. But I'm so glad that Hamilton is available. And you're exactly right. It's an accessibility issue. Even if you could go to New York, even if you live in New York, you may not be able to afford that ticket. But now you can watch this exquisitely filmed production that was helmed by the director, Tommy Kail, who knew, I want this shot, the audience needs to see this moment. It's phenomenal. It exceeded my expectations. We did get to see it live with the original company. And while I'm fortunate that I was able to see it on Disney Plus, I've watched it twice now, and will likely watch it many more times. Nothing can compare to being in that space with those actors and that audience. It was electric. I'll never forget it. But the streaming production is a totally different thing. Right? You may not get that immediacy and that directness that you would in the theater, but you get to see this remarkable work of art that I would say is our generation's Showboat or Oklahoma or West Side Story. It's a game changer. It's a milestone in the development of the American musical. And we'll be talking about it for years and years and years and years. But to have an opportunity to see the close-ups and to follow that story and just have access to this piece, I think is pretty incredible. I think others will follow suit. I think it might be tricky in terms of negotiating contracts and figuring out how to make this work. Lately, there's been a call for Lincoln Center Library to release their archived productions. I don't think that's a good idea. Those were not filmed to be broadcast. Typically, it's one camera or several cameras toward the back of the auditorium. It's not edited. It's not the quality of Hamilton. But another thing that I've been thinking about a lot over the past few weeks regarding Hamilton is that piece was created, and that story was told by individuals who were trained at college and university theater, dance, and music programs, support the arts in our schools. And it was developed by a nonprofit theater company, the Public Theater, which, given the success of Hamilton and several other productions in its history, I think will be okay. I think they will survive the pandemic. But I don't know if we would have Hamilton, or think of all the other stories that are waiting to be told and all the other artists who need a platform. And if we don't have those nonprofits, we may not hear those stories. We may not see those artists.
That's really well said. My wife and I have a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they've watched Hamilton a couple times now. And number one, there's just so many questions that a 7-year-old has about who's who and what are they doing. So
right.
I might need you to come over and answer so many of the questions that I just can't answer.
And there's so much other stuff, right? And I would be remiss in not mentioning it. I've watched all of the National Theater Live broadcasts. They've been making some of their productions available for a week at a time. There have been a ton of concerts. Seth Rudetsky and James Wesley are doing a daily Stars in the House broadcast to raise money for the Actors Fund. There are so many concerts, readings, performances, streaming right now. Adam Feldman from Time Out New York has been doing a really great job of keeping track of them, and publishes something every day saying, here's what you can stream today. So if you're not sure where to start, and it can be a little overwhelming, I would suggest that you check out Adam Feldman's columns.
And that's really good. We were eating dinner last night, and I think I said to my son, who's 6, I said, stop talking and eat, And he immediately responded with, talk less, smile more, in the voice of Aaron Burr from the the show. And I was like,
Perfect.
But that's, again, my wife and I were probably not going to take our 2 kids to see Hamilton on Broadway in New York City, but now they've had a chance to kind of get the taste of it. So I think it's going to be a good thing for a lot of people going forward.
I agree.
So it's probably like, asking a parent who's your favorite child, but, do you have a favorite show that you've been a part of, since your time at Mercyhurst? And this really could be, and maybe it should be both, on the MIAC Live side and on the theater side. Or is there a show on either side that sticks out more so than another?
With the theater program, we've produced a diversity of works. It's difficult to compare something like She Kills Monsters, which was the most technically ambitious thing that we've attempted. I was incredibly proud of what we were able to do on that small stage with our limited resources. If you compare, it's impossible to compare that to something like Musical Comedy Murders, which is a pretty traditional farce mixed with a murder mystery, or The Diary of Anne Frank, or Babes in Arms, which is, an old chestnut of a musical. So I have fond memories and things that I've learned from each of those experiences. With MIAC, it's also impossible to answer because I have such respect for these artists, and each of them has exceeded my expectations as a performer and as a person. They have been incredibly kind to our crew, to our students, to our audiences. I think about Darlene Love honoring the veterans at her concert. I think of Lily Tomlin standing backstage and shaking the hand of every single crew member as they left and looking them in the eye and saying, thank you. I think of Jane Lynch and Kate Flannery and Tim Davis taking the time to sign autographs for everyone who wanted one after their concert. We've been very fortunate. But I think what I'm most proud of is for our campus community, because I think it's important to make a distinction that we have made these opportunities available to our students. Not only can they come see these incredible artists for free, but they've been able to participate in a question and answer session with Chita Rivera. They've taken a master class with Norm Lewis. They've performed on stage in the pack with both Patti LuPone and Kristen Chenoweth. I hope that those are valuable experiences that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. And it inspires me to, and I grew up revering so many of those people that I mentioned and listening to them and watching them on television or in movies, that it's hard not to be a little starstruck, but it's even more fulfilling to watch them interact with our students. And I want to continue to offer those opportunities moving forward, because I think it's one of the many things that further distinguishes Mercyhurst from some other colleges and universities. Making those opportunities available was so important to me, in part because when I was at Susquehanna, my undergraduate mentor, professor, friend, Doug Powers, brought in people like Tony Kushner and Stephen Sondheim and Angela Lansbury, and so, most of whom came after I had graduated, but I flew back from grad school to see them. Those are invaluable experiences. And I'm really proud that we're able to do that here at Mercyhurst.
Well, it's really well said, and it certainly continues the Sisters of Mercy have such a long and successful legacy of honoring the arts, and I know they're proud at our continued commitment as a university to embracing the arts in so many different ways. The visual arts, the performing arts, and so many different opportunities for our students, and not just those that want to major in something, but those that have a very clear career path that it may not involve theater. They still have this incredible opportunity to have that as part of their experience on campus, and I think that just speaks volumes to our well-rounded campus experience here at Mercyhurst. So I think that's really well said. One of our listeners out there asked the question, how do you envision the future of the Mercyhurst Theater program? And is there a way that the Mercyhurst community, and I would probably extend this to alums as well, can help support that vision?
That's a great question. The theater program grew faster than I think any of us anticipated. I had 9 people audition for my first production in spring 2013. We produced Sarah Rule's Eurydice, which is a reimagining of the Orpheus and Eurydice myth. I had 9 people audition. So I cast 7 of them, and the other 2 helped on the creative team. And now for some of the more popular shows, we'll have 40, 50 plus people auditioning for all of the shows. We have now 2 years in a row, we're kind of in a rebuilding phase right now. We've just graduated 2 really large classes. And those students were involved in almost every production in some capacity. And I'm going to miss them terribly. Their participation, they're seeing them in class, having them participate in the shows, but also just having them around. At the same time, we have to look toward the future, and it's a time of rebuilding. So we want to reach out to incoming students who may have done their church pageants or their high school musicals or their community theater shows. And I find that some of them don't realize, oh, wait, I can still be involved with theater at Mercyhurst even if I'm not a major. Others may not think, or mom and dad may not think it's practical. I have to admit that I was one of those. I went to Susquehanna as a communications major. I didn't know what I was going to do with that. But shortly, I think it was my second or third semester, I was like, what I really want to be doing is theater. And I'm not saying that that's the case for all of these students, but I think theater as an addition, as a supplement to your liberal arts education, could be so useful for the reasons that I outlined earlier. So I feel like we're in a rebuilding phase right now. We're pivoting to virtual performances for the fall. And who knows what's going to happen in the landscape of higher education with us here at Mercyhurst. After the pandemic, I think the next few years are going to be challenging for many reasons. But we'll get through it. And I don't know necessarily what the Mercyhurst Theater program looks like on the other side of that, whether we initiate those conversations of a major. Is that something that's desirable? Is it something that we should consider? Or are we comfortable with what we're doing, which I think is offering really rigorous, meaningful classes, producing quality productions, and providing these opportunities for our students, both through the theater program and through MIAC. So, I mean, I've had lots of dreams for this program. I think we could just continue to build and grow and develop. I'm just not sure what the best course of action is going to be and how the pandemic will impact the next 2, 3, or 10 years. So we'll see. But in the meantime, we're going to keep innovating and keep offering these really great experiences.
That's great. I know the Performing Arts Collective is a very resilient bunch, so I have great faith in that all of our offerings will continue to flourish as we go forward. Mm-hmm. So I think our last question, Brett, is always one of my favorite questions, and it is very simple and basic. It's what's your favorite part of Mercyhurst? But I'm going to throw out that you can't say MIAC or the theater program as your answer. So we'll make you think a little bit on that one. What's your favorite part of Mercyhurst?
Am I allowed to say the students?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what I mean. I've been asked a similar question before, and that was and remains my answer. The students with whom I've worked over the past 8 years are some of the most talented, hardworking, generous, funny, empathetic, intelligent students that I have seen in my experience as an undergraduate, as a graduate student, and now as an instructor. Some of them, many of them keep in touch with me, with the other members of the theater program. Many of them have become friends. They make the 80-hour weeks worth it. The other thing, and I really feel like in some ways this distinguishes our Mercyhurst students, there is not an ounce of entitlement. They want to work hard, and they want to take advantage of as many opportunities as are provided during their 4 or 5 years at Mercyhurst. But they don't expect anything. I haven't had to deal with that, well, I deserve this role mentality, or that other kind of nonsense that you sometimes see. So their positive spirit, their enthusiasm, their inquisitive nature makes me want to be a better teacher. It makes me want to be a better director and a better mentor to them in whatever way I could possibly serve in that capacity. And they are the reason that I hope I can stick around for quite a while. We have an incredible group of burgeoning young artists, young adults who attend this institution. And it's been a very difficult 4 months. And there are good days and there are bad days. And for all of us, I think, and there are days when we're uncertain about the future, maybe individually and collectively. But it's this group of students that give me hope for the future, that we will, not just in terms of the pandemic, but in terms of our country and our world moving forward to a more equitable, more accessible, more empathetic world. And I know some of them are watching. They're the best. They are. And I love working with them. I miss seeing them. And so that's my answer, the students.
That's perfect and extremely well said. I think it's certainly around the most common answer that we have when we ask that question. It usually boils down to being about the people. And as somebody who, in your role, who deals with students so frequently, that certainly makes great sense. I know folks can find out a lot of information about MIAC on the MIAC website, which I think is myac.mercyhurst.edu. MIAC is also very active on social media. So if you don't already follow them, I would encourage you to do that. They share wonderful information and not just about their specific events, but, background about the artists that attend. I tend to learn a lot about who's coming to town from the links that you share, Brett, and it's really helpful. I, again, want to thank you so very much for taking some time to join us today. It's been really insightful and learned a lot about the backbone that is the Performing Arts Collective at Mercyhurst, and it's been really wonderful to share that with so many people. We are going to take a bit of a summer break for our Lunch with Lakers series. We know that folks are getting a little busier with maybe some vacationing, hopefully not too far away from their homes, but as well as back to school preparations and whatnot. So we'll take a few weeks off and we'll be back in early September, if not before. So stay tuned to our websites and social media for more information about that. You can always email us, alumni@mercyhurst.edu, with suggestions for future shows. We've already got a running list of topics we would like to continue covering in the fall, and we look forward to sharing more information with everybody then. Brett, thanks again for your time. We appreciate it. Wish you the best as you plan for some virtual fun in the fall as we go forward. Thanks everybody out there for joining. We hope you have a great day, and Carpe Diem.